Thank you for that, Andy. So I'm having an issue where I'm having to clear my cache in order to kind of not run into issues with the move stuff. But once the cache is cleared, it seems to be fine. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I'll show you what I've got. So obviously we've been looking to get the CRUD ops in for collections, the ability to move collections, the ability to rename collections, and the ability to obviously delete collections. And that's been the focus of this week. So one of the things that we've opted to do for the start is that obviously for moving, drag and drop is quite an intuitive way of doing things. But it comes with a lot of issues for accessibility and other pieces. So there always tends to be a fallback. Our best practice is that we have a fallback. So what we've come out with for the first iteration is that fallback, where essentially you're able to select the folder that you want to, or the collection that you want to move your collection to. So there's a couple of other changes that have happened, but I'll stick to those. I've made some tweaks in other parts of the app for rhythm and other things, but this is obviously, the CRUD ops is the big ticket items, so I'll stick with that. So the first one, obviously we've removed a lot of plus that we had previously and going back to a context menu. So when I click on the context menu, I get a selection of options. Those options vary on where you are looking at the context menu. So obviously I cannot rename or delete the personal collection, so I don't have those options. And if a particular collection doesn't have a suitable place to move it to, you will not be offered with the move option as well. So we're trying to determine or make sure that the actions that are available in the context menu are always actions the user can actually take. So that's the first piece. So if I go in and I take a look at, let's say the tenders, actually marketing, let's delete marketing. So obviously destructive action, we're getting a nice modal appear here with warning and copy. Is this big enough for everybody? Do you want me to make it a bit larger? Is it okay? Do you see people kind of looking up at their screens? Hopefully it's an okay size for you all. So we've got this destructive action. And in order to take that destructive action, I can click delete collection and I'll be asked to confirm. So essentially we'll have to click twice to make sure you can actually delete. So I'll go ahead and I'll delete that collection and boom, it's gone. So next one is obviously I can go into my sales collection and I can rename that collection and I'll just call it sales with an exclamation mark, and I can add a description if I haven't added one already. And just say this is my sales collection. And I can update the collection and we'll see that the description will appear and sales will update. And the last one, and probably the big one, where most of the effort has gone in, is move collection. So there's a lot of different scenarios we can get for move collection. And I've tried to make sure that you're always reflecting the appropriate UI state, and also only offering options that are valid options for the user to move their collection to. So if I go in and I take client C, and I can take the children and everything with it, I can go in and I can move, and I'm prompted with essentially a replication of the tree that we have on the left-hand side here, with personal collection open by default, but the rest closed by default. And I can see here that sales is currently grayed out. That is because sales isn't a suitable target for this collection because it's actually the collection that that it's currently in. Excuse me, my camera's going out of focus. But I do have some siblings that I can move this collection to. So I can go in and I can select client A and I can click move, and we'll see that client C is moved out of sales into under client A. So we're only showing options that are valid options, and you're able to move the collections around as you see fit. So I think that probably covers it for the purposes of the demo, but I'm curious what people think and would welcome your feedback and questions.
I haven't tested this. I tried it on the Bristol link. I wasn't able to upload any files. So I was just wondering if it would work with the mentioning of a collection when you move. So what the interaction would be there. But yeah, I haven't tested that yet.
Was that related to assets? Sorry, Mark. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So if when you move collections, and you mentioned it, will it change what assets it has in scope.
Yes. So what Graham has just shown, let's say he had 5 tenders in that client C tenders. If he were to mention, or try to chat with a higher level collection, he'll be chatting with those 5 tender documents.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Graham, when will these be available in production? I guess they're not, I just see it on localhost here, so I'm wondering what the process and timing is.
So it's in main, so it's available on the development environment. And my hope was that as soon as we see how people's experience is with the swarm, that that's going to determine when we go to production. So I've certainly done a lot of local testing and over the last few days, and it's been stable. It wasn't until I put it actually up onto dev that things started to get a bit flaky. So I hope it works well for everybody. So yeah, as soon as we get a green light from the swarm, it's ready to go to prod.
Okay.
Graham, it's not working for me on the deletion.
Could you send me a screenshot?
Yeah.
Alex? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not having issues, so we'll have to figure that out.
Like I say, Alex, is maybe try clearing your cache, see if that solves it. That seemed to solve it for me. Not sure why that would be the case, but that seemed to solve it for me.
Everything's working for me without clearing cache.
Did you get an error, Alex?
Yeah, I post on the engineering channel. I have a very big level of collections here that I did for testing. So
That's great.
Graham, thank you for doing this work and sharing this. It's a huge step for us, and very, very hopeful we can get this out into production as soon as possible. We're literally onboarding Gino at 10 a.m. So it may not be possible by Gino at 10, but we've got Paramount on Monday. I'm going to add something for us to discuss more in our next UI UX sync, which is when you hit delete collection, what I see is that the assets are also being deleted, which is taking us further down the folder route versus the tag route. And I'm a little bit concerned about that. We need to talk about it more. But if we think about more like Gen 1, if I remove a tag, I don't lose the asset, right?
They're not actually deleted.
Right
now, because we don't have the tag ability, we communicate that to the user because they can't see them in 2 places. But
yeah.
The assets are still there. And so as soon as in the UI, we added the ability to make an asset in 2 collections, we would have the behavior that you'd like. Great. Yeah. So just figuring that piece out and what we can do, if there's anything that we can do sooner rather than later I just don't want us to go too far down the folder route. And, but I understand, like, let's ship and drip, right? So this is great. Yeah, the endpoints are there to associate an asset or a thread to multiple collections. So it's just prioritizing the UI side. Yeah. Okay. And testing it. Make
Aaron,
sure.
I think there was also work you wanted to do to be able to reparent when you delete a collection. All right, so that's also kind of on the same lines with keeping your assets, but just moving them to a different collection.
Yeah, so if it's only in one collection, there are a couple of different branches that, the screen can get complex. So you could say, delete the collection, but move all my assets and threads to this other collection in the process. And I would be very happy with an MVP being that the assets just get moved up 1 level to the parent if you delete the collection. And then the ability to manually delete assets from the asset list. If we could just do those 2 things, then we've got something versus nothing around this.
Would you want to adapt the language that we've got here, Julio?
Graham,
Or
let's definitely ship this.
Okay.
And we'll talk more about what the right initial MVP is to drip on it after.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
I think the level of effort would be the same to just have a select box where they could choose any collection to move the assets versus just forcing it to be the parent. It'd be the same effort.
My only small point of feedback here is let's just be consistent. I think we're always capitalizing collection. I think that's true. If we are, we should be everywhere, including here.
One thing to add, just as a past ask, maybe over the last year and a half from users, is like holding things for some period of, like delete versus archive. And again, that's, I think, very much in the nice to have, and that's more for the assets themselves than the collection.
And that is how deletes are implemented for the assets in the threads. They're I call it tombstoned.
Nice.
And we can at some point have a revive feature inside the UI so users could do it themselves. But right now, if somebody were to delete an asset or a thread, they could reach out to us and we could go in and fix that mistake for them.
Okay.
Collections is the only thing that's being hard deleted. When you delete a collection, it's just as cheap as a tag, right? They can just recreate it. There's the hard delete.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
And that's also something that could be configurable. So an enterprise could have a setting. So their soft delete period is a year for their retention needs, and a low scoring account is 7 days or something.
Wonderful. So it's on development, Storytell development. Fill your boots, as we say over here. Have fun. Let me know what you think. And the one ask I might have is that if you do come across any issues, particularly with the move modal, or perhaps you're seeing some allocation that you don't think you should be able to move it to, or the what I would call the accordion. So if I just go in here and I go to move, this appears, but there's actually nothing within it. Oh, sorry. The accordion. So, for example, if this appears, but there's actually nothing within it, or something like that, if you'd be able to screenshot that for me, so screenshot the model and screenshot the structure of your collections, that'd be really helpful in narrowing those things down. I think I've got most of them, but there's a lot of things that can move to different places with different circumstances. So anything we find and that have screenshots would be most helpful. Thank you.
Great. Graham, could you actually pop up the screen one more time? You popped it up and sales was closed and then you opened it. Do you have that screen?
Yeah.
So it's currently in sales. Is that right?
No. So what I've essentially done is that everything that's not the root collection is closed by default. So one of the reasons for this is that obviously we're using a modal at the moment, Rorio, and modal real estate is maybe not as restricted as the left-hand panel can be, but I don't want to get into a situation where suddenly things are users having to scroll. This will overflow. So at a certain point, I think it's about 75% height. If the model tries to go any larger than that, then the panel will actually become scrollable. So I just wanted to not have that be the default case for people that have a lot of collections, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it would be a little bit easier to understand if it was open by default, but I understand the thinking there. Yeah. And I think the drag and drop is going to be the main way people do it anyway.
Yeah. I think just to point out again that if there is a situation where you're not able to move to a particular collection, but you are able to move to its children, that's when you'll see it slightly grayed out. So essentially, this is telling me it's within client A already, so you can't move to that one, and I can't click it, but I can move to one of the children of that collection. Okay. Somebody put bigger font on the screen. Where was that related to?
On the modal header.
The modal header. Yeah. I intentionally kept it small, but yeah, we can punch it up a little bit. I actually, one of the other changes was to make the close slightly smaller than it has been as well. So really just contracting this content and enlarging the actual content of the model is one of the things that I did.
This capitalized collection.
Yes. So did you say that that's a thing for everywhere where we're using collections, Dorio? Is that your thinking?
I believe we've already said it.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll get that updated.